Hi everybody, what's happening? I'm Adam, this is Go To Outdoors, and welcome back to another one. I was playing a little bit of disc golf here at the local park right across town, and when I came here last time, I noticed something that I've been looking for quite a while. I mentioned in my last video that I've been trying to find a way to get a particular wild foraged fruit to be tasty, to be edible. And like I said, last time I was here, I found something. Right behind me, you'll notice. Let's see if we can get you in here a little bit. Is a persimmon tree. Now these are wild American persimmons, and they've started to drop. They have started to drop, and when they finally drop is when they start to get ripe. But obviously you can see this one is in, pretty much a roadside ditch right in front of some cattails. So I don't think I'm going to be eating this one right off the ground, but you could if you wanted to, because they get kind of squishy, they get kind of soft, and that's kind of what you want to look for when you're looking to pick a persimmon, or so I've heard. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. So what I did do, I brought a little baggie. So I am going to pick a whole bunch of these off this tree, and then I'm going to do another lap around the park here, see if I can find any more. So stay tuned. So as you can see, there are a few fruits that are actually on this tree, so I'm going to grab what's in reach. And again, sorry about the construction noise. I believe they're just adding additional parking and roads to the local park, so gotta do what you gotta do. Long story short, took a lap around the park and I could not find any more that were within reach from the ground, so I zipped back up to the Blue Blaze side trail that gets up to the Appalachian Trail at Snickers Gap, because when I was here the other day, I found a persimmon tree that was dropping. Let's see if I can find it again. While I'm out here, I'm actually going to pick some of this for the first time. This is a spice bush. You've probably been walking through the woods and seen the really bright berries that are fairly typical for this species. I've never actually picked them to use them for anything, but I'm going to. And what I do for that is actually going to be in another episode, but be right back. So when you're looking to find a tree to pick persimmons from, this is ideally what you would want. It's a very mature, very tall persimmon tree. And what they really have is a very distinctive kind of bark. It's little blocks, very, very easy to see. Doesn't really look like anything else. There's a younger one right here, which I'll pan over here. Let's get a look at that one. It's kind of hidden in here between some, wild. Yeah, it's raspberry. I think it's raspberry. But yeah, this younger tree under here, you can see it kind of has the same basic representative bark. Let's get you in there. Just a lot smaller. It still has that really blocky, small chunk style bark. But the big tree here, what the bark honestly reminds me the most of is actually, it kind of reminds me of charcoal briquettes. Very similar to what a chestnut oak bark looks like, but it's a lot smaller pieces, squares, chunks. This one's right off the trail. But the nice thing is, and I'll pan you up top here in a second, the base of this tree is covered with persimmons that have fallen down. Give me just one second. This one's actually a little bit neat because there was a branch that fell that had two immature fruits actually on it when it fell. I'm still going to hang on to this one, but when they fall, a lot of times they kind of squish. This one's just a little bit, it looks past prime, but I think that's what you look for. Again, I am no expert on persimmons. I'm doing this as a bit of an experiment. Oh, there's another one. This one was so ripe when it hit, it just kind of, the whole thing just kind of went moosh when it hit. Not bringing that one home. One moment. I'm gonna be super sticky after that. But for the other ones, I found a couple that looks like they fell before, and they dropped their seeds. And let's see if I can get that to focus. That is a Persimmon Seed. I got a couple of them here, along with a couple, again, immature fruits like this one right here. The immature ones always seem to fall with leaves and stuff stuck to them. Either way, I am going to take out another trusty grocery bag and see if I can gather a couple more. There, of course, we have the big tree. This is the little tree. Both of those are persimmons, American persimmons. And the small one, let's try and get you a little bit of a vantage point here. Going up. There's a couple very, very yellow still persimmons in that one. Here's the big tree. I don't know if you can see all the way up there. Right there in the center. It is loaded. So that branch right there is completely loaded. The very, very top up there has a pile of them up in there. And basically, this is going to be a food source for a lot of the local wildlife for probably the next couple months. Underneath this big one, with as many are up there, there really isn't a lot that's on the ground because the squirrels eat these, the foxes eat these, the local bears eat these. I've actually seen turkey eat them as well. You know, larger trees like this, a lot of the fruit trees, they use animals to facilitate their reproduction. They just, you know, the critter eats it, walks off, plants a tree somewhere else, which is kind of exactly what happened at the park there. You know, the reason that one persimmon was growing in a ditch, in a culvert full of cattails right next to a road is because I guarantee you there was a bird that got a hold of a persimmon, flew over there and did its thing. Just found a couple more. These ones are very squishy. They do leave kind of a schmear on you, but it's a tasty schmear. Sorry for the jack-breaking truck. Just came across a couple more, and there's one here that kind of got mashed when it hit the ground. That's the one I'm actually going to try, because like I was saying, if they're almost jellied in consistency, those are apparently the ones you want to look for. And yeah, this one is even got leaves and stuff stuck to it because it is completely jellied and falling apart. Here goes nothing. Find a spot that doesn't have leaves on it. That's really good. Super, super sweet. Super sweet. Probably not a mustache-friendly food, but sorry, this is finger-licking good. Quite literally. Tastes kind of like it's an apricot, definitely an apricot flavor. Kind of like a date. If you've ever had dates, it's very, very similar to a date. I bet if you were able to find a way to dry these and candy them like I've typically had dates, they would be... You probably heard that one smack on the ground behind me. This place is a war zone between the hickories and the persimmons falling. I don't know if I should be recording here. Anyway, those ones were really, like, again, super squishy, super jelly, almost if you saw that at the store, let's be honest, you wouldn't want to buy it because it looks like it's well past its prime. It looks rotten. But persimmons, for some reason, you have to eat them. You can only really eat them when they look like they're completely rotten, because they are so full of tannins. And by tannins, it's the chemicals. Say, for instance, my phone is ringing. One moment. I got persimmon on my phone. Yum yum. You know, let's be honest. If you came into the woods and you saw a fruit that looked like that, you wouldn't want to eat it. You know, focus on it, not me. It looks like it's well past its prime already, but this one isn't ready yet. And just to do this for you. Ah. That was no. Super astringent. Because before they're fully ripe, persimmons are loaded with tannins. I don't know if it's just a defense mechanism against what, or it just happens to be how the American persimmon is. But you have to have them at an insanely ripe point just to be able to eat those, because that's when those tannins break down and start being really tasty. There's some more over here on the ground I have to pick, I just noticed. But it's almost syrup. I mean, you almost want it to be a syrup inside of a sack. It sounds disgusting, but that's what I have noticed. And it's almost like there are certain trees. There's another persimmon tree right here. There's almost certain trees that ripen before the ones right next to them. I couldn't find a lot of information on American persimmons, but it's got to be out there somewhere. It's probably some of that lost knowledge that nobody cares about anymore, because you have commercialized versions of fruits. Like the American persimmon, because it is so astringent and kind of a small fruit for what it is, it's not the most popular outside of foragers, because you can go to the store, you can get a Japanese persimmon. I believe it's called a fuyu or a koji persimmon, or kojo persimmon. I'll correct myself later if I find out what the actual name is. Actually, I have service here. Let me check that real quick. Okay, so the Japanese variety is actually called Diospyros Kaki, K-A-K-I. It's not koji. Koji, it's stuck into my head. That's the mold inoculated rice you put into soybeans to make miso, and it's, again, another episode. The one that you have here is Diospyros Virginiana, and which is kind of cool. It's the American persimmon, and I happen to be in Virginia, so yes, win for us. We don't get many. Let me have this one. Diospyros Virginiana is the wild variety that you're most likely to find walking out in the woods like I am right now. The cultivated version, again, the Diospyros Kaki, K-A-K-I, however you pronounce it. Sorry I'm butchering that. Correct me if I'm wrong. You get this stuff all over you and it's mighty tasty. Don't want to let it go to waste. But the American persimmon is one of the, again, like I said, the tannic, one of the really astringent species of persimmon. The Japanese persimmon is not really known to be astringent, but they also don't tend to be quite as sweet when they fully ripen. So I actually have one of those trees at the house, and I'm going to do a comparison between the two when I get back there. Okay, so there were a bunch of hikers that just kind of zipped through right there. But I just picked a couple more of the persimmons that were here. Had one that was perfect. I mean, the skin popped right off of it. It kind of just melted in my hand, and I spent about a minute getting my hand clean again. Not safe for film, folks. I was enjoying it too much. But the flavor, now that I got another one, it kind of tastes like apricot. Like I said before, almost kind of like honey and a date. Combination of a couple different flavors there. It's actually the kind of thing, if I can find enough to turn into like a jam or a jelly, that would be fantastic. something to spread on toast. That's it. It's kind of, if somebody put orange marmalade with an apricot and honey, that's the flavor. That's what it's reminding me of. That is the flavor right there. That's good. That's really good. I'm gonna have to plant some of these at the house. Maybe not right next to the other persimmon I have, but definitely on the property. If nothing else, it's gonna be another forage food for a lot of the critters that live there. So I have a little bit. I have enough to bring home and do an experiment with. I picked some that weren't quite ripe. I picked some that were ripe. And I'm gonna put those next to the other persimmons I have at the house. So hang tight. I'll catch you back when I get there. Obviously, I'm back at home. As you can see, I am now standing in front of the Japanese persimmon tree that's actually on my property. It is a Diospyros kaki, K-A-K-I. Again, I will get this right eventually, as soon as I find out what it is. First thing you would notice is obviously that these persimmons are much larger. I mean, these are 5-6 times the size of the Diospyros Virginiana, the wild persimmon that we have around here. And they are also of the non-astringent variety. They typically don't have the same problem, eating them like the wild persimmons do. Wild persimmons have so much tannin in them, like I was saying, that you bite one, and for lack of a better metaphor, it's like squirting preparation H in your mouth. I mean, you instantly you want to pucker and everything just clamps shut. It's the worst thing ever. It's worse than like just chewing on aspirin. It's no, don't do it. It's a bad idea. These right here, being that they are non-astringent, technically you could pick one of these right off the tree, even when they're still very, very hard like this, and eat it like an apple. No, you don't do that. It's, if you want an apricot honey flavored apple, then go ahead. Yeah, go ahead and do it. But if you really want something that's going to be like the very unique texture flavor experience that a truly ripe persimmon can be, if I picked one of these right now, because you can pick these once they have this kind of peachy, very peachy color. Like these ones aren't quite ready yet. The ones that are very orange aren't quite ready. When they start getting the peach color on them, like that one back there, that's when they're ready to pick. But again, they're still very hard. You could leave these on your counter to ripen for months, literal months. Like I've seen them sit out for over 2 months and still not be quite jellified, gooey enough to be properly ripe and tasty. So that's the experiment I was actually mentioning before I came home here. I'm gonna wait till a lot of these do get this pink peachy color. I'm gonna pick several of them. I'm probably gonna pick 6 of them, and I'm gonna let them sit for a month. Starting at that 1 month, I'm going to cut one open and eat one every week after that. So I'm gonna have 6 weeks, up to a total of 2.5 months ripening time once I pick these. And again, obviously that's gonna be a video well in the future at this point, but I wanna know exactly when it's gonna be just that right time to eat it. But yeah, that's the Japanese persimmon. Let's hop inside now, get out of the sun, and see what the rest of these persimmons look like. Well, I decided to pick one early, so move back into a little bit better light, just to give you a good example of the size difference between the American persimmon, the Diospyros Virginiana, probably about the size of a good sized cherry tomato, and then this is the Diospyros keki, the Japanese persimmon. Next to each other, you can see a very, very big difference. This is about the size of your average tangerine, maybe a really large clementine. And again, cherry tomato, clementine. Cherry tomato, clementine. Get a lot more in here, and a lot of these actually tend to be seedless, while I know this is going to be loaded with seeds, because that's just how they all are. I've never found a wild persimmon that did not have tons of big seeds in there. So, just food for thought. All right, so I'm back in the kitchen now, and sorry if you hear any whining. My dog loves the microphone on top of my camera here, and she's staring at it like she wants to murder it, because that's what Jack Russells do. It's good to know that if I ever need to get her attention, all I have to do is get my camera out. But that's beside the point. So here's what we have today for the persimmons. As you can see, I have some that I just left the leaves on, the ones that fell out of the whole trees. These are the more ripe ones, and the couple of seeds that I found that were by themselves. And these ones are less ripe. I'm going to let them sit out for a few more days, if not a few more weeks, let them get to this gooey point that these ones are at, because through my very, very short trial and error period just now while I was out in the woods, the really gooey ones, like I said, the ones that are almost like a bag of syrup with a skin on it, those ones actually taste fantastic. They taste the best. And I ate like 7 or 8 of them while I was out there, so I can vouch for that. But that said, these are going to sit here. I hope this video was helpful in showing you what to look for in terms of the type of tree, and looking up into the tree to see the fruit that are still hanging. And get out there and find some on your own. These are awesome. I'm going to keep these out here, and I'm going to have another video here probably in about a month or two when I do the experiment with the Japanese persimmons, just to see what they compare like to these ones. But that's all I got for you today. And like I always say, thanks again for watching. Go out there and find a reason to smile, and I'll catch you in the next one.